The chill of late October in Bucharest cuts sharper than a knife. The gas lamps along Strada Lipscani flicker, sputtering against the night wind that smells faintly of wet cobblestones and burning coal. I, Ion Petrescu, night watchman of the old National Archive, have walked these halls for more years than I care to remember. Yet tonight feels different. Tonight, even the walls seem to breathe. The archives are silent, except for the occasional creak of floorboards, the scratch of my pen against the ledger, and the soft whisper of paper fluttering from draughty windows. I notice a foul scent, like rot buried under centuries of dust, seeping from the restricted wing. My boots crunch against loose gravel as I approach. Each step echoes like a funeral drum. Earlier, while cataloguing a box of 1920s municipal reports, I noticed the strange absence of one document, the record of deaths in a village called Ciumești. Oddly, the ledger has gaps, dark stains blotting out the ink, as if someone had intentionally erased parts of history. A chill runs down my spine. I taste copper on my tongue, perhaps from the old iron key I hold tightly, sweating through the leather glove. I pause before the door to the restricted wing. Its wood is cold, rough, and strangely sticky, as though something had brushed against it recently. The faint scent of decay grows stronger, and a low, almost inaudible thump resonates from inside. I strain my ears. Nothing human could make such a sound. My pulse hammers against my ribs. I push the door open. Dust swirls into my face, catching the weak lamplight, painting ghostly shapes on the walls. Shelves of ancient tomes and boxes stretch into darkness, their labels faded, cryptic. Something shifts at the far end, a shadow moving against the faint yellow glow. My stomach twists. The sound of breathing, deep, wet and deliberate, fills the room, but there's no one there. A cold hand seems to graze my neck, though the air is still. My lantern flickers violently. On the floor I notice scratches forming letters in the dust. I see you. I bend closer, the smell of iron and decay thick in my nostrils. Then a whisper, soft, raspy, almost from under the floorboards. You shouldn't be here. I spin, heart hammering, only to find the room empty, save for the shifting shadows. I try to convince myself it's imagination, exhaustion, or perhaps the spirits of old documents, but the ledger on the nearby table has fallen open by itself. On the page, in ink I don't recognize, is written a single word, Strigoi. A shiver crawls down my spine. The word tastes bitter in my mouth, like ash. My lantern flickers again, plunging me into near darkness. From the far corner, a faint rustling begins, slow, deliberate. Something is moving toward me. I can feel it watching, smelling, listening. My gloves tighten over the iron key in my hand. I take a step back, then another. My back hits the cold wall. The whispers grow louder, overlapping, chanting in a language older than the city itself. And then, silence. A shadow detaches itself from the wall, not human, not quite animal. It hovers, breathing, waiting. And I realize with a sickening certainty that the Strigoi legends of my childhood were not stories. They were warnings. Before we go deeper, understand this. This story isn't for everyone. If you're still here, you're one of the few who can face what America buried. Subscribe now, and tell me in the comments, what state are you listening from? And would you dare hear this story from your own backyard? Chapter 2. The murmurs beneath the floorboards. The lantern's weak light trembles in my hands as I stare into the darkness, heart hammering like a drum in a funeral procession. Every shadow seems alive, stretching and twisting in ways the mind shouldn't perceive. My breath comes in shallow gasps, tasting bitter smoke and iron from the key I clutch like a talisman. I force my legs to move, stepping cautiously over scattered papers and broken glass. The whispers return, curling around me, soft but insistent, almost mocking. They speak in a language I don't know, old, guttural, like the grinding of stones. Each syllable feels like it vibrates directly into my skull. I can feel the cold of the floor seeping into my boots, the sticky dampness clinging to my clothes, and a metallic tang lingers in the air. Something beneath the floorboards shifts. A wet, hollow thump, as if something is breathing down there. I bend closer, trying to catch a glimpse, my ear pressed to the wood. The sound is deliberate, a slow rhythm, thump, 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 like a heartbeat. The smell grows worse, damp, mouldy earth and decay of something once living. A soft scuttling echoes from the far corner. My lantern swings wildly as I spin toward the sound. A rat? I hope. But a voice whispers from nowhere, icy against my neck. Not alone. Never alone. I stumble back, catching a shelf of dusty books. One crashes to the floor with a sickening thud, sending a cloud of dust into my mouth and nose. I choke, gagging, tasting grit and ash. And then I see it. Faint scratches across the floorboards, forming words. Beware. Strigoi. My instincts scream at me to leave. Every fiber of my being wants to flee into the cold night outside. But curiosity, or something darker, roots me to the spot. I kneel and press my hands to the floor, feeling the rough wood and faint vibrations beneath. It's alive. Something beneath that the floor is alive. I remember the stories whispered in hushed tones at the tavern as a boy. Villagers vanished at night, only to be found pale and lifeless, eyes wide with terror. They said the Strigoi walked in shadows, drinking the warmth of life, leaving only cold husks behind. I had laughed as a child. Now the laughter is gone, replaced by a chill that seeps into my bones. A sudden movement freezes me in place. A box slides across the floor as if pushed by invisible hands. The lid creaks open slowly. Inside, a handful of human teeth, jagged and yellowed with age. My stomach churns. The whispers grow louder, overlapping into a low chant that vibrates the walls. Then I hear it clearly. A voice, distinct, commanding, coming from the floorboards themselves. Join us, before the night ends. I leap back, lantern tipping over, light spilling across the room. Shadows twist and writhe, forming shapes that make my stomach twist in fear. Something emerges from the far corner, something pale, gaunt, and impossibly fast. Its eyes glint in the lantern light, red and unyielding. The air grows thick with the smell of iron and decay. I realize with a sickening certainty that the Strigoi are not just legends. They are waiting. And tonight, they are hungry. Chapter 3. The Ledger's Hidden Secret. The cold iron key trembles in my hand as I scramble backward from the floorboards, my lantern rolling and casting jagged shadows across the room. The air is thick and choking, tasting faintly of wet earth and iron. My lungs burn with each ragged breath. The shadow recoils into darkness, but its presence lingers, hungry, waiting, like the pulse of the night itself. I force myself to stand, shaking, sweat running down my back despite the cold. My eyes land on the fallen ledger, the one that had spelled Strigoi. Its pages flutter as if caught in a breeze, though the air is still. One page snaps open to a handwritten note, faint but legible. To understand the living dead, one must first know the dead alive. I feel a chill crawl up my spine. The words smell faintly of mold and burnt paper, and their meaning twists in my mind. I've spent decades among these tomes, yet this one seems different, dangerous. I notice a loose sheet tucked inside the ledger's binding. Pulling it free, I see a map, roughly drawn, depicting Bucharest's streets, but with small crimson X's marked at locations I vaguely recognize from old gossip and local legends. A sudden sound makes me snap my head up. The whispering again, softer this time, like someone exhaling just behind me. The hair on my neck rises. My gloves brush against the rough wood of a nearby shelf, the grain biting into my palms. I kneel over the map. One mark is near the old Ciumeşti archives, a place I had dismissed as forgotten history. Another mark is here, in the very building I am in. My stomach knots. Could the Strigoi really move through these points? Could they walk hidden among the living, feeding on the unwary? Then the floor creaks, slow, deliberate. Something moves beneath the boards, closer now. I hear it breathing, a wet, hissing sound that seems to echo through the walls. Them's elves. My lantern flickers violently, and in that brief strobe of light, I see it. The shadow stretches, almost reaching me, its eyes gleaming like coals in the dark. I stumble backward, the ledger slipping from my hands. Pages scatter across the floor, revealing a single photograph. A pale man, gaunt, hollow-eyed, smiling unnaturally, scribbled beneath in shaky ink. Last seen before the rising of the dead. My stomach turns. The resemblance is uncanny, almost like looking into a mirror of someone long dead, yet very much alive. A cold gust of air sweeps the room, carrying whispers that now form words I can almost understand. He sees you. You cannot hide. I grab the ledger and back toward the door, heart pounding. But the way is blocked. Shadows coil along the walls, creeping toward me like living smoke. I can feel their cold tendrils brushing my arms, the rough texture of something damp and clammy against my skin. The scent of iron and rot is overpowering. In desperation, I slam my lantern against the floor. Light bursts briefly, illuminating the room in stark, flickering clarity. The shadows shrink, but when my eyes adjust again, a single figure stands near the ledger, pale, thin, grinning, watching, waiting. And then it whispers. My name. Chapter 4. Whispers through the walls. The whispering grows louder, filling the narrow archive halls until it drowns out even my own panicked heartbeat. Each syllable coils around my mind like smoke, curling into every thought and memory. I stumble backward, the ledger clutched to my chest, tasting the dust and faint metallic tang of blood. Or perhaps just my own fear. The shadowed figure remains, motionless, its hollow eyes glinting in the trembling lantern light. I strain to make sense of its features. Pale, gaunt, and impossibly tall, it feels like a man, but moves like something older, something unnatural. I can almost hear the rasp of its breathing echoing through the walls themselves. A sudden thump from above jolts me. Something moves on the ceiling, floorboards of the upper story creaking as if heavy footsteps tread silently over empty rooms. My stomach twists. The building groans, a deep, hollow sound, like wood straining under centuries of secrets. The smell of mold and decay grows thicker, mixing with a faint, sweet stench I can't place, clinging to my nose and throat. I force myself toward the back of the room, past the scattered papers and broken books. My hand brushes against the cold, rough wall, feeling something unusual. Tiny scratches, etched deep into the plaster. I trace them with my fingers. "Do not leave," is scrawled in shaky, uneven letters. The writing vibrates under my touch as though alive. My skin prickles. A sudden noise behind me makes me spin. The ledger slides from my hands onto the floor, pages fanning open. One page is marked with a symbol I recognize from old village folklore, a twisted circle with jagged lines, a sign of the Strigoi. My pulse accelerates. This symbol always heralded death or disappearance in whispered stories. I hear it again, a wet, deliberate scrape from the far corner. I turn slowly. The shadow has moved closer, yet it leaves no footprints, no sound beyond the whispering. Its eyes, red and unyielding, fix on me. My tongue feels thick, almost as if something invisible presses against it. The air tastes of iron and decay, and the lantern flickers violently. Desperate, I grab a nearby broom and swing it blindly at the darkness. The shadow recoils with a hiss that chills me to my core, moving faster than any human should. It seems to dissolve into the walls themselves, only to reappear closer, almost hovering above me. My ears ring with whispers, repeating my name over and over, overlapping, suffocating. I stumble backward into a corner, hands shaking, sweat soaking my clothes. My eyes catch something. Another ledger, older, bound in cracked leather, tucked behind a stack of boxes I've never noticed. I pull it free. Its pages are brittle, filled with names, dates, and cryptic notes about the dead walking among the living. As I skim, one name jumps off the page, Ion Petrescu. My blood runs cold. My own name, written in handwriting I do not recognize, alongside the words, "Soon he will join us." The lantern flickers one last time before plunging the room into darkness. In that instant, I feel it. Cold fingers brushing my shoulder, heavy and clammy, pulling me back into the shadows. A whisper, sharp as a knife, slashes across my ear. It's time. Disclaimer. This story is purely fictional. Any resemblance to real people, places, or events is entirely coincidental. Chapter 5. The Cold Corridor. The lantern clatters to the floor, casting fragmented light across the archive as I scramble backward. My fingers scrape against cold stone and splintered wood. The rough textures bite into my skin. The shadows twist unnaturally, crawling along walls and shelves like smoke given form. The air is thick, heavy with mold, wet paper, and something far fouler, like the faint stench of rotting flesh. I rise to my feet, hands trembling, heart hammering in my chest like a funeral drum. Every instinct screams at me to run, yet the hallways stretch endlessly, narrowing and bending as if the building itself is alive. My ears strain over the soft scraping of unseen claws across floorboards above, the subtle drip of water somewhere distant, and the whispering voices that now chant in unintelligible tongues. I force myself forward, dragging my feet over the cold, cracked tiles. The ledger is still in my hands, pages flipping open to names, dates, and ominous symbols. Each name is accompanied by a brief note. Taken at dusk, returned never, seen again in shadow. The entries stretch for decades, and then one line stops me cold. Ion Petrescu, Watcher of the Archives, report missing, October 1927. My stomach twists. Bile rises in my throat. The air grows colder, thick and damp, pressing against my lungs. I can taste it, like metal, like old blood. Shadows pulse along the walls, expanding and contracting, as if breathing. A sudden gust of air rattles the doors down the corridor, carrying with it a faint whisper. Do you hear us? We are hungry. I stumble into a narrow corridor I've never noticed before, walls lined with old shelves. Dust and cobwebs cling to my sleeves, catching in my hair. My lantern light dances across the space, illuminating objects long forgotten, cracked jars, faded maps, skeletal fragments wrapped in tattered cloth. The smell is overwhelming. Decay, dust, and something faintly sweet, almost like burnt sugar. Then I hear it. A low, wet scrape directly behind me. I spin, lantern swinging wildly. Nothing, but the sense of being watched is unbearable, prickling every nerve in my body. My hands shake as I press against the wall, feeling the rough stone and the faint vibrations beneath my fingers. The floorboards groan under something unseen, moving in rhythm with my quickened heartbeat. I force myself onward, drawn by a strange compulsion I cannot name. At the end of the corridor, a faint red glow seeps from beneath a door. The smell of iron is stronger here, thick and choking. My hand hovers over the rusted handle. A whisper curls around me. Open, or be taken. I hesitate, lantern shaking in my grasp. A sudden, icy touch brushes my cheek, cold and clammy like a corpse's hand. I stumble back, heart pounding so loudly it drowns out everything else. Through the corner of my eye I see movement, a shadow separating itself from the walls, sliding toward me with silent, deliberate menace. Its red eyes glimmer hungrily in the faint light. I grip the lantern tighter. My skin prickles with cold sweat. The whisper grows louder, insistent, as if pressing into my very thoughts. We have been waiting for you. And then, the door at the end of the corridor creaks open by itself, slowly, revealing darkness deeper than the night itself. Chapter 6. The Door to the Unknown. The door at the end of the corridor yawns open, blackness spilling like ink into the dim light of my lantern. My hands tremble as I step closer, the rough stone walls pressing in on either side. Every instinct screams to turn and run, yet a compulsion drags me forward, each step echoing loudly against the empty halls. The air beyond the doorway is thick and heavy, tasting faintly of iron and damp earth. It clings to my tongue and throat, making each breath a labor. A faint rustling sounds from within, like dry leaves skittering across the floor. I strain my ears, hearing whispers just beneath the edge of comprehension, murmurs of voices long dead. They speak in a language older than Bucharest itself, curling into my thoughts with icy fingers. I step through the threshold. The room is small, walls lined with cracked wooden shelves. On the floor, dust has shifted in strange patterns, forming symbols I recognize from old folklore: twisted circles, jagged lines, and the unmistakable mark of the strigoi. My skin prickles, the hair on my arms standing rigid. The smell is overpowering now: rot, earth, and something faintly sweet, like decay left to ferment. A ledger rests in the center of the room, illuminated by a single beam of pale light filtering through a grimy window. I approach it, every step slow, deliberate, tasting dust and iron on my tongue. The pages are brittle, filled with names, dates, and brief notes of deaths, disappearances, and sightings of shadowy figures. One entry makes my blood run cold. October 1927. Night watchman approaches the final hour. I drop the lantern to the floor, the light quivering and casting grotesque shadows across the walls. A sudden movement from the far corner catches my eye. A figure emerges, taller than any man should be, pale, hollow-eyed, and grinning with teeth too sharp to be human. Its presence is suffocating, the air around it chilling to bone. I stumble back, hand brushing against the ledger. The pages flip open on their own, as if pulled by invisible hands. Words appear, freshly written in ink I do not recognize. He sees us. Soon he joins. My stomach twists. I recognize the handwriting. It matches the entries I saw before. My own name is here again. Then the whispers grow louder, pressing into my mind, forming words I can almost comprehend. Do not resist. The night claims all. A cold, wet hand touches my shoulder, clammy and heavy. I spin, but the room is empty. My lantern wavers, and in the flickering light, the shadows on the walls writhe, stretching toward me with unnatural speed. The symbols on the floor seem to pulse, glowing faintly red, as if feeding on my fear. I realize with terror that the door behind me has vanished, replaced by a wall of darkness. I am trapped. And somewhere, beneath the floorboards, or perhaps within the walls themselves, something waits, patient and hungry. A whisper curls into my ear, soft and deliberate. Welcome to the heart of the strigoi. Chapter 7. Eyes in the Darkness. The room seems to breathe around me, shadows curling and twisting as if alive. Every sound, the creak of floorboards, the whisper of wind through the cracks, even my own ragged breathing, echoes like a chorus of ghosts. My lantern wavers, throwing jagged light across the walls, revealing shapes that vanish when I blink. The symbols on the floor pulse faintly, red against the dusty wood. The air tastes metallic now, thick with iron and decay, clinging to my tongue. My hands shake as I reach for the ledger, but it slides just out of reach, as though pulled by some unseen force. Whispers swirl in my ears, rising and falling like a tide, unintelligible, yet filled with intent. I take a tentative step forward. The floorboards groan beneath me, vibrating with a deep, unnatural rhythm. Then I see them. Eyes. Hundreds of small, pale, unblinking eyes, glinting from the cracks in the walls, peering at me from the darkness. They are not human, yet intelligent, watching, calculating, waiting. I feel their gaze press against my chest, my neck, my very mind. A faint scratching comes from beneath the floor. The thumps grow louder, slower, deliberate. I can smell it now. Wet earth, decay, and a faint sweetness like rotting fruit. My stomach churns. The shadows along the walls begin to lengthen, reaching toward me, stretching and writhing as if testing the limits of the room. I stumble backward, heart pounding, and my hand brushes a wooden shelf. A box tips over, spilling its contents, ancient bones, broken tools, and a small, rusted dagger. I pick it up instinctively, feeling the rough, cold metal bite into my palms. The whispers intensify, now forming words I can almost understand. We hunger. We wait. We take. The ledger jumps open in front of me, pages flipping violently as though a gust of wind blows from nowhere. Names appear, ink, dark and fresh. Villagers long gone, scribbled hastily in fear, and then, my own. The words seem to crawl across the page. Suddenly, a shadow detaches itself from the far wall, moving silently, sliding closer with an unnatural grace. Its red eyes pierce the dim lantern light, fixed on me with a predatory hunger. My breath catches, tasting of ash and iron. The cold presses against my skin like invisible hands, wrapping around my limbs, rooting me in place. I raise the dagger, hands trembling, lantern swaying. The shadow stops, tilting its head as if amused. The whisper curls directly into my ear, sharp as ice. You cannot hide. We are all around you. A sudden crash from the ceiling makes the room shake. Dust rains down. Something large moves above me, something unseen. My pulse quickens, every nerve screaming. And then, from the corner of my eye, I see it. A pair of glowing eyes, not part of the first shadow, staring from the darkness behind me, closer than I dared imagine. The room seems to shrink, the darkness closing in. I realize with sickening clarity that I am surrounded, trapped, and the strigoi are beginning to close in. Chapter 8. The Whispering Shadows. The air grows thick, almost suffocating, as I press the dagger tighter in my hands. The shadows pulse along the walls, stretching, crawling, forming grotesque shapes that leer at me from every corner. My lantern flickers violently, throwing sharp, jagged light across the room, and each time it dims, the shadows seem closer, pressing against me with invisible weight. I taste iron again, thick and metallic on my tongue, as though fear itself bleeds into my mouth. The whispers swirl, rising into a chorus of hissing voices. Each syllable cuts into my mind. He cannot escape. He cannot hide. Join us. My hands shake uncontrollably. The dagger feels too light, too insignificant against the darkness that surrounds me. From somewhere beneath the floorboards, a low, wet thump begins, a slow, deliberate rhythm like a heartbeat. My ears ring as it grows louder, closer, sinking with the pounding of my own heart. I can feel the vibrations travel up through my feet, crawling into my spine. A sweet, cloying stench fills the air, clinging to my hair, my clothes, my skin, the smell of decay and old blood. I step backward toward the corner of the room, brushing against dusty shelves. My fingers graze an old ledger, cracked and brittle with age. I pull it free. Its pages are filled with names, symbols, and hastily scribbled notes, all warning of the same thing. The strigoi never rest. They wait in shadows, they feed on fear, and they mark their prey. A shadow detaches itself from the wall with sudden speed, sliding across the floor like liquid darkness. Its red eyes glint in the flickering light, fixed on me. My pulse races. I try to lift the dagger, but my arms feel heavy, as if invisible hands are pressing them down. Another shadow stirs from the corner, and then another, a silent congregation moving closer. The whispers grow louder, overlapping, chanting in a rhythm I can feel in my chest. My vision blurs as fear tightens its grip. The floor creaks violently beneath me, and a cold hand, clammy and skeletal, brushes against my neck. My breath catches in my throat. I can feel its hunger, its patience, its awareness. Then, a voice, clear and piercing, slices through the chorus of whispers. You belong to us now. I spin, but the room stretches impossibly. The walls seem to pulse, breathing, alive. Shadows writhe in ways that defy natural movement, stretching taller, thinner, reaching farther. I realize, with a cold sinking in my chest, that escape is no longer an option. Something moves from the corner faster than any human could, gliding silently toward me. My eyes widen in horror, the dagger trembling in my hand. The shadows surge, whispering, hungry, closing in from every side. And then I feel it, breathing on my face. Chapter 9. The breath of the undead. The cold presses against my skin like a living thing. And I feel it, breathing. Not mine, but something else's, moist, fetid, and unbearably close. My lantern wavers, casting fractured light across the room. Shadows stretch impossibly, crawling along walls and shelves, reaching toward me with spindly, smoke-like fingers. I stumble backward, tasting iron and dust on my tongue. Each breath is heavy, labored, thick with the scent of decay and rotting paper. The whispers have grown into a chorus, louder now, filled with menace and hunger. Join us, join us, join us, they chant, curling into my mind like a vice. From beneath the floorboards, the low thump of movement grows more distinct. Something is moving, deliberate, purposeful. I can feel the vibrations in my bones, as though the building itself pulses with life, or unlife. The ledger slips from my hands, pages fluttering wildly, revealing names marked with fresh crimson ink, those who vanished in decades past, and my own name, once again. A shadow detaches from the far corner, moving faster than my eyes can track. Its form is humanoid but grotesque, elongated limbs, hollow eyes glowing red, a mouth twisted into a grin too wide to be human. It hovers closer, exhaling a putrid, fetid breath that carries the smell of iron, earth, and something sweetly decayed. My stomach twists, bile rising. I swing the dagger blindly, but it passes through the figure as if it was smoke. A cold laugh, wet, gurgling and filled with malice, echoes around me. More shadows begin to detach, moving silently, encircling me. Their eyes glint in the lantern light, countless, unblinking, aware of my every move. I press myself against the wall, trying to make myself small, to hide. The floor beneath my feet creaks as if responding to some unseen rhythm. My fingertips brush the ledger, and I catch a line I hadn't seen before. The night watcher fears the night, but the night watches back. Suddenly, the shadows surge forward. I stumble, tripping over scattered papers and broken floorboards. The cold, wet air presses against my face, filling my nose and mouth with the metallic tang of blood and decay. I scramble to my feet, my lungs burning, but the shadows are upon me. I hear it then, a whisper, close, personal, brushing my ear like icy fingers. Do you feel it? We are everywhere, and you cannot run. A searing cold lances through my spine as a shadow rises before me, towering, its red eyes fixed with unrelenting hunger. My lantern shatters under my trembling grip, plunging the room into near darkness. The whispers become a roar. My heartbeat thunders painfully in my ears. And then, a voice, sharp, commanding, and unmistakably human, calls from the darkness, "Iron, why have you come here?" Chapter 10. The Voice in the Dark. The voice echoes through the room, low and deliberate, reverberating against the stone walls. My skin prickles, the hairs on my arms standing on end. The whispers swirl around me, now overlapping, forming a cacophony of voices, each sharper than the last. You cannot hide. You belong to us. I spin, dagger raised, but the darkness is impenetrable. The lantern lies shattered on the floor, its flame snuffed out. I taste dust and iron on my tongue, my throat dry, my hands shaking uncontrollably. The shadows twist and writhe, moving faster, converging in ways that defy natural laws. I can feel them, cold, wet, and hungry, pressing against me from every angle. The voice speaks again, clearer this time, human yet not, reverberating inside my skull. Ion, do you understand what you've uncovered? I stumble backward, heart hammering, trying to make sense of it. My eyes search for the ledger, for anything to hold on to, but the room has changed. The walls seem taller, stretching upward into darkness, the ceiling lost in shadows. The floorboards groan beneath me, vibrating with a slow, rhythmic thump, like a heartbeat from beneath the earth itself. A shadow rises before me, taller than any man should be, its eyes glowing like embers. The air is thick with rot and metallic tangs. Its movements are unnaturally smooth, silent, yet deliberate, closing the distance between us. My stomach twists. Bile rises in my throat. I can hear the whispers converging, circling, speaking my name over and over. Eon, Eon, Eon. I stumble backward into a corner, fingers brushing against the ledger that had slipped beneath a fallen shelf. The pages flutter open, revealing a map. Streets of Bucharest marked with strange symbols, names crossed out in crimson ink, and a single note that makes my blood run cold. The night watcher is marked. He cannot escape. A low, wet sound emerges from the shadows, a scraping, dragging noise that grows louder, closer, deliberate. My hands shake as I grip the dagger, feeling the rough metal bite into my palms. The shadows surge, reaching, stretching, twisting toward me. And then the voice, soft, almost intimate, whispering directly into my ear, says, "You've seen too much. Now, you belong to the night." The shadows lash out, cold and suffocating. The air thickens, choking me. My knees buckle, and I fall to the floor, the ledger clutched to my chest. Red eyes gleam from every corner, hungry, unblinking. The whispers crescendo into a roar, pressing into my mind, threatening to consume every thought, every memory. Then, a sudden silence. The shadows freeze. The whispers stop. My heart races violently in my chest, echoing in the emptiness. In the faint light of a flickering window, I see it. A figure emerging, not a shadow this time, but pale, human-like, yet impossibly gaunt. Its gaze locks on mine, and in its mouth, stretched unnaturally, is a grin that promises nothing but death. "Do you remember Ciumeşti, Eon?" it hisses. My stomach drops. That name, an old village, long abandoned, its secrets buried, rushes through my mind. Memories I had buried resurface, of old warnings, stories told in hushed tones, and now it all connects. And then the figure steps closer, its grin widening.
Did you know in Romanian mythology, creatures known as strigo are believed to be troubled spirits, or undead beings that rise from the grave and torment the living? The word strigo comes from Romanian folklore, and is tied to ancient beliefs about restless dead and life-draining spirits. These legends date back centuries and were common in Transylvanian and Moldavian regions of Romania. According to traditional belief, strigo could be either dead individuals who returned from their graves, called strigo mort, or living people with supernatural abilities, strigo viu. They were said to be able to shape-shift into animals, become invisible, and drain the life force or blood of others, traits very similar to what we think of as vampires today. Because of these fears, rural communities developed anti-strigo defenses, garlic hung in homes, nails driven into coffins, or even rituals involving exhuming suspects, staking the heart, and burning the body. These weren't just ghost stories. These practices were recorded in Europe into the 19th and early 20th centuries, and people genuinely believed in their power. Even today, strigo remain a significant part of Romanian cultural folklore, a reminder of how ancient beliefs about death and the afterlife shaped real traditions and fears across generations.
Chapter 11. The Village That Waits. The pale figure's grin stretches wider, impossibly wide, revealing teeth jagged and yellowed. The shadows around me twist, writhing, almost alive. My lungs burn as I draw ragged breaths, the metallic taste of blood or fear filling my mouth. The lantern lies shattered at my feet, light extinguished, leaving me in near total darkness, save for the faint glow of the figure's eyes. "Ciumești," it whispers again, voice low and deliberate. "Do you remember the stories your mother told you? The disappearances, the nights when the village slept and never awoke?" I shake my head, swallowing hard. Memories long buried surface, tales of villagers vanishing, of bodies found pale and cold, eyes wide with terror, mouths twisted as though frozen in a scream. My hands shake as I press them to the floor, feeling the rough wood, the vibrations beneath, the heartbeat of something ancient hidden beneath the earth. The shadows surge closer, crawling along the walls, reaching toward me with smoke-like fingers. The air grows thick, choking, tasting faintly of iron and mold. I can feel the cold press against my chest, pressing into my lungs, making each breath a labor. The whispers rise again, overlapping voices chanting a single word, Ciumeşti. I stumble backward, clutching the ledger. Its pages flip violently, stopping on a single entry, Ciumeşti, marked by the strigoi. Those who enter do not return. The watcher will witness the night. A sudden scraping sound emerges from the far wall. I spin, eyes straining. There in the darkness the shadows form shapes, figures, pale and gaunt, writhing. They seem alive. The smell of decay intensifies, mixed with the faint sweetness of rotting fruit and blood. My stomach twists. The pale figure steps closer, the grin unchanging. Its voice curls into my ear, icy and intimate. You will see, Ion. You will see what sleeps beneath Ciumești. The dead do not rest, and neither will you. A wet, cold hand brushes my shoulder. I spin again. Nothing. Just the oppressive darkness, the smell of iron, and the faint, pulsing vibration under my feet. My heart hammers violently. The ledger falls to the floor, opening to reveal a crude map. Symbols I recognize, streets and houses marked with crimson X's. One X pulses faintly, near Ciumești. The shadows surge suddenly, faster, closing in. My lungs burn as I try to run, but the room seems to stretch impossibly, walls bending, floors elongating. The whispers echo inside my mind. The night waits, and you cannot hide. I realize with horror, I am being drawn, not merely trapped in this building, but towards something older, hungrier, and infinitely more patient. Something buried in the earth itself, waiting for the living to cross its path. And then, from the darkness, a guttural hiss. Do you hear it, Watcher? The village calls, and the strigoi answer. Chapter 12. The Call of Ciumești. The air grows thicker with each step I take, a suffocating weight pressing against my chest. Dust and decay cling to my clothes and hair, the metallic tang of blood, or fear, bitter on my tongue. The shadows swirl around me, moving with purpose, curling like smoke around my limbs. I feel them brushing against my skin, cold, wet, and insistent. The ledger trembles in my hands, pages fluttering as if alive. Names and symbols blur before my eyes, red marks pulsating faintly, leading me to a single, ominous notation. Ciumești. The night waits. My stomach twists, bile rising as the words seem to burn into my mind. A whisper, faint at first, grows louder, curling directly into my ear. You cannot resist. The village calls you. I spin, dagger raised, but the darkness stretches endlessly. Shapes form and dissolve, writhing on the walls like living shadows. Pale eyes gleam at me from every corner. I can feel the vibrations beneath my feet again, the heartbeat of something vast, buried beneath the earth, pulsing with hunger and anticipation. The pale figure steps closer, silent, impossibly still, its grin unchanging. Its voice curls into my mind, a rasping whisper that chills my very soul. Ciumești is not a place. It is a promise. The strigoi never sleep. I stumble backward, dropping the ledger. The pages flip open on their own, revealing a crude map of the village. Streets are marked with crimson X's, homes, churches, and graveyards all pulsing faintly as though alive. One mark glows brighter than the rest. My heart hammers. That is where they are waiting, hungry, patient, eternal. A wet, cold hand grazes my shoulder. I spin, dagger raised, and see nothing. But the shadows move differently now, more deliberate, almost guiding me. The whispers merge into a single guttural chant. Ciumești, Ciumești. The night calls. The air grows colder, and the room seems to stretch, elongating into a corridor I've never seen before. Each step I take is met with resistance, as if the darkness itself resists my movement. The scent of iron and decay grows stronger, pungent, almost suffocating. I taste it on my lips. From the far end, a faint glow flickers, like lanterns in the distance. Shapes move within it, small, twisted, humanoid, their eyes unblinking. The pale figure's voice echoes once more. They have been waiting, centuries. And now, Eon, you will join the watching. The shadows surge, pressing against me from every side. The glow ahead beckons, the whispers growing insistent. I realize with terror that I have no choice. The village calls, and the Strigoi will not be denied. And then, from beneath the floorboards, the low thumping begins again. This time, it is synchronized with the pounding of my own heart. A guttural hiss rises, closer, sharper, echoing through the walls. Come, or be consumed. Chapter 13. Crossing into the village, I step forward, drawn as if by some invisible tether. The air grows colder, each breath tasting of iron and rot. The shadows cling to me, twisting around my arms and legs, brushing against my skin like icy fingers. My dagger feels heavier with every step, a fragile barrier against the suffocating darkness. The corridor stretches impossibly, walls bending inward, the floorboard creaking with a rhythm that matches my hammering heart. Faint, flickering lights appear ahead, like lanterns swinging in the wind, but when I strain my eyes, I see no one holding them. The smell of earth and decay thickens, mingling with a faint sweetness that turns my stomach. The ledger slips from my grasp and falls open, pages rustling as if alive. I glance at it in panic. A new note appears, written in fresh, trembling ink. The gate is open. Once you cross, the village will see you, and the dead will follow. The shadows surge forward, writhing along the walls, reaching toward me. I stumble, almost dropping the ledger again, and catch it just in time. My eyes widen. Across the flickering lights, the outlines of buildings emerge, roofs and walls warped, twisted by shadows, streets slick with an unholy sheen. This is Ciumeşti, yet not the village I had known from stories. It is older, darker, alive in a way that makes my stomach turn. A guttural hiss rises from beneath the floorboards. I glance down and see the boards ripple as if liquid, pulsing under my feet. The whispers grow louder, insistent. Join us, join us, join us. I press forward, each step heavier than the last, my skin prickling, every nerve screaming. The pale figure glides beside me, silent, its grin fixed, red eyes unblinking. Its voice snakes into my mind. Once inside, there is no turning back. They will watch you. They will know you. You will never leave as you entered. The stair ahead stretches infinitely, lined with skeletal trees that sway though there is no wind. Faint figures move in the shadows, pale, gaunt, their eyes glowing dimly in the lantern light that seems to float above the ground. They are waiting, patient, unmoving, until I step fully into their domain. A sudden clatter to my left makes me spin. A shadow detaches itself from the wall, elongated, humanoid yet unnatural, moving silently. Its eyes burn with hunger. My throat tightens. The metallic taste of fear floods my mouth. The whispers swell into a roar. The village itself seems to pulse, alive with anticipation. I realize the truth in terror. Ciumeşti is not abandoned. It has been waiting for me, and for centuries it has been feeding on the living. And then, from the darkest corner of the street, a single figure steps forward, draped in tattered black, its eyes like molten red coals. It tilts its head and smiles. Welcome, Ion, to the heart of the Strigoi. Chapter 14. The Heart of Shadows. The street stretches endlessly before me, warped and impossible, lit only by the flickering glow of lanterns that float without hands. The buildings lean inward, crooked and broken, their shadows crawling like living things. I clutch the ledger tightly, its pages trembling in my hands as if sensing the darkness that surrounds me. The metallic tang of fear is thick on my tongue. The pale figure glides silently beside me, eyes unblinking, its grin fixed and wide. Whispers curl around my mind, rising into a guttural chant. Ciumeşti. The night feeds. The night watches. I step forward, my boots crunching on broken cobblestones slick with an unholy moisture. The smell of decay grows stronger. Earth, rot, and faintly sweetened blood. Every sense is overwhelmed. Shadows twist along the walls, reaching toward me with smoke-like tendrils. They brush my arms, my neck, leaving chills that pierce to my very bones. Figures emerge from the darkness, pale, gaunt, their eyes dimly glowing. They move without sound, surrounding me, circling like predators. Their gaze presses into my mind. I taste bile, iron, and fear. My chest tightens and my knees threaten to buckle. The ledger flips open on its own. A map of the village glows faintly on its pages, symbols pulsing red. One X pulses brighter than the rest, the heart of the village. My pulse accelerates. I realize I am being drawn to it, compelled as if by an invisible hand. A sudden movement freezes me. From an alleyway, something emerges, tall, skeletal, its movements jerky yet deliberate, eyes glowing red, and a grin stretching impossibly wide. A hiss escapes its throat, a sound of hunger and malice. I raise the dagger, trembling, but it passes through the figure as if it was smoke. The whispers rise again, louder, now almost deafening. The heart awaits. You cannot resist. I stumble forward. So forced by a compulsion, I cannot fight. The pale figure glides ahead, guiding me toward the center of the village. Each step feels heavier, as though the ground itself resists me. I taste iron again, fear, blood, or something far worse. In the center, a fountain stands, stone blackened, water dark as ink, rippling though no wind stirs it. Around it, shadows writhe like living things. Pale figures kneel beside it, their eyes fixed on the water. I feel their gaze lock on me. The whispers curl around me. He sees. He belongs. Suddenly the pale figure stops and tilts its head. Its voice hisses directly into my ear. Look closely, Ion. This is the heart, and it will reveal what you truly fear. I lean closer, unable to resist, and see movement in the water. Faces, pale and twisted, trapped beneath the black surface, mouths open in silent screams. My stomach lurches. I know, with sickening certainty, that these are the souls of those who dared enter Ciumeşti before me. And then the shadows surge, reaching for me. I feel their cold fingers brush my skin, pulling me toward the water, toward the heart of the Strigoi. Chapter 15. Faces in the water. The black water ripples unnaturally, reflecting flickering lantern light that seems to come from nowhere. My reflection stares back at me, pale and drawn, but not quite human. The faces beneath the surface twist and writhe, mouths frozen in silent screams, eyes wide with eternal terror. The metallic tang of fear and decay fills my mouth, clinging to my tongue and throat. The shadows press closer, curling around my legs, cold and wet, tugging at me like chains. I feel their clammy touch brush my arms and neck, freezing my blood. My hands clutch the ledger, but it feels light and fragile, as though it offers no protection against what I face. The pale figure hovers beside me, grin fixed, its red eyes unblinking. Its voice is a whisper that slithers directly into my skull. These are the lost, those who dared enter Ciumești. And now, you will see their fate. I feel a compulsion I cannot resist. My eyes are drawn to the water. The faces shift, forming shapes I recognize. Villages I had heard about as a child, names whispered in fear. Then, the face of someone I know, or think I know. My heart thunders violently. The whispers grow louder, swirling, chanting my name. Ion, Ion, Ion. A shadow separates itself from the crowd, taller, more defined, its red eyes fixed on mine. It hisses, wet and gurgling, a sound that chills my very soul. My fingers tighten on the dagger, but I know instinctively it will do nothing. This is not a threat to be fought with steel. This is something older, patient, eternal. The water ripples, and a hand, pale, skeletal, impossibly thin, reaches up from the surface, grasping toward me. The smell of rot and iron fills my nostrils, almost suffocating. I stumble backward, trying to escape, but the shadows tug, wrapping around my legs, pulling me closer to the fountain, to the heart of the Strigoi. The ledger flips, open violently on the cobblestones. A single note is scrawled across the page in fresh crimson ink. The watcher has arrived, and the night devours. A sudden movement catches my eye. From the darkness, figures rise, dozens, pale and gaunt, their eyes dimly glowing, kneeling then standing, forming a circle around the fountain. Their whispered chants converge, growing louder, almost deafening. Join us. The night takes all. Join us. The pale figure tilts its head, grinning wider. Its voice coils into my mind like a serpent. Look into the water, Aeon. See what waits for you. See who you will become. I feel a cold, wet hand brush my shoulder again. My body trembles uncontrollably. The shadows surge closer, tightening the circle around me. I know the choice is no longer mine. The water ripples once more, and a face rises to meet mine. A face I recognize, and one I fear I will never escape. Chapter 16. The Water's Secret. I stare into the black water, heart hammering violently in my chest. The faces beneath the surface writhe, twisting, some silent, some mouthing words I cannot hear but feel in my mind. My stomach churns, bile rising as I realize. These are not just victims, they are warnings. Messages frozen in eternal terror, each one a testament to what happens to those who trespass in Ciumeşti. The shadows tighten around my legs, cold and wet, coiling like living ropes. I try to step back, but the cobblestones beneath me seem to stretch and shift, holding me in place. The metallic taste of iron fills my mouth again, sharper this time, bitter and suffocating. The whispers curl around my skull, insistent, urgent, almost demanding. See, see, join us, cannot escape. The pale figure glides beside me, silent, grin wide and unyielding. Its red eyes burn like embers. I raise the dagger, trembling violently, but the shadows laugh, or maybe it's my mind, and I know instantly that no weapon of this world could protect me here. This is beyond steel, beyond human defiance. I lean closer to the fountain. The faces shift, merging into a single shape, a grotesque reflection of a man, or perhaps a warning of what I might become. A voice, low and wet, rises from the water itself. Aeon, you were chosen the moment you entered. The night has claimed you. My hands tighten on the ledger. The pages flip open wildly, revealing maps, names and symbols that pulse in crimson ink. One mark glows brighter than the rest. The fountain, the heart of the village. I realize the truth in terror. This fountain is not merely water. It is a portal, a heartbeat, a well of the Strigoi's power, feeding on the fear, the flesh and the souls of the living. A skeletal hand rises from the water, clawing toward me, dripping with blackened liquid. The stench of decay overwhelms me, almost choking me as I stumble back. Shadows writhe faster, pressing closer, whispering in a single suffocating chant. Join. The night. Cannot escape. I glance at the pale figure. Its grin stretches impossibly wide, voice coiling into my mind. Step closer, Watcher. See the truth. See what becomes of those who resist and those who surrender. My legs tremble uncontrollably. The whispers intensify, surrounding me, pressing into every thought, every memory. I feel the pull of the water, the pulse beneath my feet, the hunger of the shadows. It is calling me, claiming me. And then, in the deepest darkness, a new sound rises. Footsteps, human, deliberate, echoing. Someone, or something, approaches the fountain from the opposite side. My pulse quickens. Could it be salvation? Or another horror waiting in the heart of the Strigoi? Chapter 17. The stranger in the shadows. The footsteps grow louder, deliberate and measured, echoing across the warped streets of Ciumeşti. My heart pounds violently, each beat hammering in my ears. The shadows twist and coil around me, as if sensing this new presence, whispering urgently, "Do not trust. Do not trust." I clutch the ledger tighter, fumbling with the dagger in my other hand. The skeletal hand in the fountain pauses mid-air, almost hesitant, its blackened liquid dripping back into the inky water. The pale figure tilts its head, grin unchanged, red eyes fixed on me. From the darkness across the fountain, a figure emerges. Human, upright, but gaunt and pale, with a long cloak that flutters though there is no wind. Its face is partially hidden beneath a hood, but its eyes glimmer like the embers of a dying fire. My pulse quickens. This presence is different. Alive, or almost alive, in a way the shadows and pale figures are not. "Ion." The voice is soft, urgent, real, cutting through the whispers and the cold that grips my chest. "Do not. Do not. Let them claim you." I step back instinctively, unsure if this is salvation or another trap. The pale figure beside me hisses, a wet, gurgling sound, sliding closer, shadows writhing and pressing in. "Who are you?" I demand, voice trembling, taste of iron and bile thick in my mouth. The stranger steps closer, revealing just enough of their face for me to see eyes haunted by knowledge, lips pressed tight in warning. I am someone who escaped. Once. The Strigoi, the heart of this village. It does not forgive. You are close, too close to becoming one of them." A chill winds through the square, the whispers rising into a roar. The skeletal hand jerks toward me again, water splashing over the edge of the fountain. Shadows surge, twisting faster, surrounding both me and this stranger. The pulse beneath my feet grows, synchronized with the beating of the water, the heartbeat of Ciumești itself. The stranger raises a trembling hand, pointing toward a narrow alley that seems to appear out of nowhere, the lantern light faintly flickering. "There. If you move quickly, there might be a way. But the village, it will fight you." I glance at the pale figure beside me. Its grin stretches impossibly, eyes glowing hotter, unblinking. The shadows writhe violently, almost anticipating my every move. The whispers curl around my mind. "Do not leave. The night belongs to us." I swallow hard, tasting iron, dust, and fear. The stranger's voice cuts through it all again. "Step lightly, Ion, or the heart will take you before the night ends." My legs shake, my chest heaving. I know I have a choice, or at least the illusion of one. Move toward the stranger, risking a path unknown, or stay, and become part of the nightmare that has haunted Ciumești for centuries. The skeletal hand jerks again, closer this time, dripping black water, and the pale figure's whisper snakes into my ear. "Choose, if you dare." Chapter 18. The Narrow Escape. The alley stretches before me like a slit of hope in the suffocating darkness of Ciumești. The shadows swirl violently around my feet, clawing at me with icy fingers, whispering my name, chanting in a chorus of despair. "Do not run. Do not run. Belong to us." I glance at the cloaked stranger. Their eyes are steady, burning with something human. Determination, perhaps defiance. "Quickly," they hiss. "Move before they notice." The pale figure beside the fountain tilts its head, grin wider than humanly possible, red eyes fixed on me. The skeletal hand jerks toward me, dripping black liquid over the edge. My heart hammers. Fear mixes with a burning need to survive. The metallic taste of blood, or fear, fills my mouth. I step forward into the alley, led by the stranger. The shadows hiss, writhing, stretching their tendrils toward me. I feel them brush my arms, legs, trying to pull me back, but the stranger grips my shoulder, forcing me onward. Each step is a battle. Each breath tastes of iron and decay. From behind, the pale figure hisses, wet and gurgling, voice curling into my mind. "The night will not forgive. You cannot leave." The alley twists impossibly, walls leaning inward, rough stone pressing against my sides. I smell damp earth and rot, hear the whispers in my skull, see pale shapes flickering at the corners of my vision. The ledger is still clutched in my hands, pages trembling violently, as if alive. "Here," the stranger whispers, pointing toward a narrow gap between two ruined buildings. A faint beam of moonlight pierces through, illuminating a small wooden door, half hidden by shadows. If we can reach that door, there might be a way out. But once we step through, the village will not let us go easily. I taste bile in my throat, but my legs move almost of their own accord. The shadows surge violently, lashing out, brushing, at my skin with cold, wet tendrils. The skeletal hand jerks again from the fountain behind us, as though trying to pull me back, as though the village itself is alive and aware of my attempt. The stranger pushes me forward. "Step carefully. One misstep, and you'll be claimed." I take a deep, trembling breath, tasting iron, fear, and dust. My hand shakes as I reach for the door. The whispers rise to a deafening roar, twisting in my mind. Do not escape. Belong. The night. The night. I press my hand against the door, feeling the rough wood, the cold, damp stone around it, and with a trembling push, it swings open. A gust of night air hits my face, carrying the scent of freedom, or perhaps another horror waiting beyond. The shadows surge one last time, stretching across the alley, reaching, clawing. My heart pounds violently. The stranger's grip tightens, voice steady and firm. "Now! Run, Ion! Run, as if your life depends on it!" I step through. Chapter 19. Beyond the village. The night air hits my face like a sudden storm, sharp and cold, carrying the scent of wet earth and old pine. For a moment I taste freedom, or the illusion of it, on my tongue. Behind me the alley and the twisted streets of Ciumești stretch into darkness, the whispers fading but not gone. I know the village still watches, waiting, patient. The cloaked stranger moves beside me, silent and urgent, their grip firm on my arm. "We are not safe yet," they whisper. "The Strigoi do not forgive, and they do not forget." The ground beneath our feet is uneven, slick with moss and mud. I stumble, tasting iron as my teeth clench, but the stranger steadies me. Shadows linger at the edges of the moonlight, smaller, slower, but unmistakably alive. I hear faint whispers again, curling from the corners of the forest just out of reach. "We see you. We hunger." We move through a narrow forest path, the trees leaning inward as if listening. Their gnarled branches scrape the sky like skeletal fingers. The leaves rustle faintly, whispering secrets I do not wish to hear. My ears ring, but not from sound. Something deeper, something inside me responding to the pulse I felt in Ciumești. The stranger finally stops at a small clearing. Moonlight filters through the twisted canopy, revealing a ruined chapel. The stones are cracked, overgrown with moss. "This is where I once found shelter," the stranger murmurs, voice low. "They cannot reach here easily." But the night follows. Always. I glance at the stranger, breath heaving, heart pounding. "Who are you?" I ask, voice hoarse. "Why are you helping me?" They hesitate, then pull back their hood, revealing a pale face, haunted eyes, and a scar that runs down one cheek. "I am someone who once walked too close to the Strigoi, and survived, just barely. I cannot leave you to their mercy. They will take you as they have taken countless others." A sudden rustle from the trees makes me spin. The air grows colder, thicker, as though the forest itself breathes. Shadows twist along the edge of the clearing, lingering, watching. The whispers rise, faint, urgent. The night follows. You cannot escape. I taste iron again. Fear grips me like a vice. "How do we stop them?" I ask, voice trembling. The stranger's gaze is sharp, almost desperate. "We don't stop them. We survive. One step at a time, one night at a time. But first, you must face what the heart of Ciumești has left in you. Its mark is not easily erased." A chill runs down my spine as I realize the truth. The Strigoi of Ciumești have left something inside me, A hunger, a darkness, a pulse that beats in time with the village. The forest seems to lean closer, listening. And then, from the shadows of the ruined chapel, a faint glow begins to shimmer. Red. Pulsating. Alive. I feel it resonate deep in my chest. "It has followed you," the stranger whispers. Chapter 20. The Mark of the Night. The red glow pulses in the darkness, reflecting faintly in my eyes. My chest heaves as I clutch the ledger, pages trembling in my hands. The forest seems alive, breathing, shadows curling and twisting among the trees like serpents. I taste iron on my tongue, fear, blood, and something older, darker. The cloaked stranger steps beside me, eyes darting to the glowing source. "It followed you out of Ciumeşti. The heart never lets go of its prey," they whisper. Their voice is urgent, low, and trembling. "You carry its mark." I glance down and see it, a faint dark pulse beneath my skin, a pattern I cannot name, beating in time with the red glow in the distance. My blood runs cold. Every instinct screams at me to flee, yet I feel the pull, deep and inexorable, toward the heart of the darkness that has haunted me since the village. The shadows stir violently at the edge of the clearing. They twist, reaching, curling toward me with cold, wet fingers. Whispers rise again, louder, more insistent. "Join. The night. Cannot escape." I turn to the stranger. "How do I stop it?" My voice cracks, taste of iron thick in my mouth. They shake their head. "You can't stop it. Only survive. And even survival comes with a price. Once marked, the night will always seek you. You will hear its whispers, feel its hunger, always." A cold wind sweeps through the clearing, rustling the trees, carrying the smell of earth, rot, and faintly sweetened decay. The red glow pulses faster now, as though aware of my fear, aware of the heartbeat within me. The shadows surge forward, writhing, circling closer. I stumble backward, the ledger slipping from my hands. My fingers scrape the cold ground as I reach for it, tasting dirt and iron. The glowing pulse beneath my skin grows stronger, sinking with the red light in the distance. I realize with horror, I am tethered to Ciumeşti. Its darkness now a part of me. The stranger grips my shoulder, voice steady but urgent. "Run. One step. One night at a time. Don't look back. The Strigoi will always follow, but you can survive if you never stop moving." I take a trembling step, then another. The shadows writhe violently, clawing, but I force myself forward, the red glow shrinking behind me as I move deeper into the forest. The whispers curl into my mind one last time, chilling, intimate. "We are everywhere, and you are ours." My legs ache, lungs burn, and fear pulses through me like fire. Yet I run. The forest stretches endlessly, moonlight faint, broken by the twisted trees. I am alive, but I am not free. Ciumești's heart beats within me, and the Strigoi's hunger shadows my every step. I glance back once. In the clearing the glow fades, but the darkness does not. It waits, patient, eternal. And I know with a cold certainty that I will never escape the night, the end.